This past week I have been out and about with my new project, and it's meant that I'm meeting lots more new people, and that's wonderful. And within that, the conversations have been started about what I've been doing, how that actually is. There's been a lot of interest in spirituality, but within those conversations it's always also been evident that there's been a little bit of reservation, a little bit of fear there, and that fear can stem from a multitude of different reasons that we will get into, and I will address some of the points. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hi and welcome to Oaklaw Door. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Claire Attio. For those that are returning subscribers, thank you. And as I said, there's a great interest. I mean, I've been out and about, and I've been meeting new people, and people have shown interest, but there's also a little bit of trepidation, also a little bit of fear going on there of the unknown, and that is perfectly normal and understandable. And also with spirituality, if anybody is kind of 30 plus, there could also be lingering beliefs, ideas from from those generational conversations, that type of upbringing, that programming, those beliefs. You also have the religious aspect of it. Many religions were for a long time against spirituality. The first thing I actually want to say is spirituality. Spirituality is, for me, personal development. The two go hand in hand. I'm looking at the mind, the body, and the spirit. And when you actually start to look at the new science that's coming in, quantum science and quantum physics, we cannot deny that we are energetic beings, and yet mainstream science has not been focused on that. We have to go back in history to get the focus on the other sciences, the energetic sciences, the astrological sciences. We're bringing all those back in, but as we bring all those back in, as we're learning more and we're integrating those, which is absolutely fantastic when you're on a spiritual development journey, because you are looking at yourself as a whole. You are caring for yourself as a whole. You're not in that segregation and separation. But of course, that will bring up all sorts of challenges with beliefs, with religion, with programming that you received from when you were a kid, from stories that you've heard out on the streets, from people playing with the negative polarity of what spirituality can be at times. We cannot deny that, and so that does bring up fear. And it was interesting when I was thinking about doing this video, I wanted to pull a card, and the card that came out was Vishnu and trust, because I was like, do I do this video or don't I do this video? I don't want it being like a teaching video. I just want to be able to kind of put a bit of information out there. If you're ready to step on that journey, if you're ready to explore, then explore. But explore with somebody you feel comfortable with, and explore with somebody who's not going to push you to do things that you don't yet feel ready for. The one thing that I learned, and I learned very early when I started my spiritual journey, was that I needed to be confident. I needed to say, no, that doesn't feel comfortable. And I did that, not because I'm so clever. I did that because I did get pushed into a situation where I wasn't comfortable. Luckily for me, no adverse harm came to me. But it could have. I could have opened myself up to something that I wasn't yet ready for. And that's one of the things as guides that we should all be very aware of. We do not know what that person's life experiences have been. We don't know what their traumas or their triggers are. And so they have to set the pace. You have to set your pace. And if there's something that really doesn't feel comfortable or doesn't resonate with you, then you need to say, I'm out. That doesn't mean you can't go back to it, and it doesn't mean that you won't go back to it later on when you've done a little bit more inner work. And this is the main reason why I always say start with meditation. Start with meditation. Just start with being at peace with yourself. So few of us are comfortable with being at peace. And so few of us, when we first start out, understand the difference between our ego talking to us and our intuition talking to us. And the only way we can actually start to differentiate between those two is by knowing what our anchor is, where our peace is. When we can get into that peace, that's when we start to rebalance, and that's when we start to learn about the chakras, the energetic system. Because when you understand what your energetic body is and how it works, that takes out a huge amount of the negative stigma around spirituality. You start to see it as a science, the same as you see your circulation system, the same as you understand how neurons in your brain work. You start to understand how the nervous system works and how it transports and uses those energies and how they all combine and interconnect. When you start to have that knowledge, that releases a lot of fear, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of preconceived ideas of what you thought it was all about and what it's not. And when people say that they're talking to their guides, it's a term that we use, but very often we're just connecting into that higher power of ourselves. I mean, there are times I do mediumship, so yes, there are spirits that come forward, but that is something very, very different. And I think the problem is when you have little knowledge, you don't understand that. And so that you think you're going to have to be talking to people that you don't know. And that is not the case at all. What you're doing is you're tapping into the God within you, the higher self within you, not something separate, not something that comes with a rule book, but the higher self within you. You're connecting to your soul, and you're using your head brain, your heart brain, and your gut brain in unison when you connect to that soul. And that's really important, because a lot of people fear getting influenced from outside factors, and that has happened in the past because there has been a misunderstanding of what you're doing. What we want to do when you start on your spiritual path is you want to learn to find your anchor in peace. What does the anchor look like, feel like to you? And then from there, you will start to learn to differentiate between your ego and your intuition. And you do that by having a three-way conversation with those three brains. You have that inner dialogue. Your ego will go, yeah, but blah, 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 blah. And the ego always stems, it stems from fear. Now, whether that may be a fear kicking in to keep you safe, or it could be a fear because of a bad experience. The energy is still within you, and so that program just shoots into action, like you do on a computer with the predictive words. How many times have we all got really cross about predictive text? That's what your body's doing. That's what your ego does. And it sends you down a road and sends you into a conversation that you didn't want. You didn't want that conversation to go like that. When you find your anchor, when you find your peace through meditation, and you start to engage and have conversation, inner conversation, with your head brain, your heart brain, your gut brain, you start to untangle and delete all that predictive text. Those fears start to dissipate. You start to get to know yourself as a soul being. And within that, you then may want to explore other avenues. And it's interesting because this video was inspired again by another conversation that I had, and it was somebody who had been taught how to bring energy down through them, but they hadn't been taught the science behind it. They hadn't been taught the background work behind it, and so they were in a session taught to bring the energy down through them, and when they actually felt it, when they felt it pulsating, and because it was so strong, they got scared, they got nervous. Not because they were scared or nervous of the energy, but they were scared and nervous that they would hurt somebody with that energy. And this is why it's so important to know yourself. When you know yourself, I've worked with another beautiful soul who was very, very spiritual, but she was capping her power because it was so powerful. But that was inner healing work that she needed to do. She was scared she would not use it for the right reasons. That was a valid fear, but those were fears that she needed to work through. We have free will, we have choice. Polarities do exist on the world. We have that good and bad. It's a way that we make sense. It doesn't really exist like that, but it's the way that we make sense of it. And she was worried that she would have all that power and she would be steered, lured. And that comes down to that mental resilience, knowing yourself, being strong and confident mentally, emotionally, so that you can't be duped, so you can't be sent down a path that is not for your highest good. Because these energies do play out. There are temptations put there on our path constantly. I'm not going to deny that. And that may be a reason why you go, I don't want to go any further. And that is absolutely fine. Honor that. Be brave enough, be honest enough with yourself, be true enough and trust yourself enough to go, I'm not going any further with this at the moment. That's called a boundary. You're setting a boundary for yourself because you know that possibly you're not in the right place or the right place, or the right space to deal with that temptation. That's trusting yourself. That's being honest with yourself. That's wonderful. That is amazing. That should be celebrated. That should never be thought of as anything other than a celebration, than a win. There will be other times where you do want to push yourself that little bit further. You have a vision, you have a plan. You want to bring it into creation onto this planet because it will serve not just yourself but many, many more. And so you've got to get past these fears. And so you do the work that is needed to get rid of the fears, but you do it in your time, in a way that is comfortable and safe for you. So that then you can move forward knowing that those temptations, okay, they may come up and you may look at them, but ultimately you go, nah, my direction is here. You would have done that inner work. It's about trusting yourself, honouring yourself. I'm going to read the book because Vishnu is absolutely beautiful, beautiful energy to have come through. If you look, it's all green feathers, and green is very, very healing, but you've got the water, so it is that emotional, but you do have the waves there. So it's that ebb and flow of life, of our emotions, of our thoughts. It's all about ebb and flow, and it's about honouring that ebb and flow. Let me find the page. And this was the bit that stuck out for me, because it was, Vishnu is the Hindu god who works alongside the gods Brahma and Shiva to preserve the world. He brings about harmony when powers become unbalanced and provides protection and mercy to all. A benevolent and loving deity, Vishnu can help you feel safe about your current and future life. When we step onto the spiritual path, when we start that personal development for ourselves, and we start to look at the mind, the body, the spirit of who we are, the biggest challenges we're going to face are our own beliefs about ourselves, the values that we were given as children, and having to work through them. And some of them we will keep, some of them we will release, they just don't resonate. And the values and beliefs we've built about ourselves because of incidences we've gone through thus far in our life. And to understand that that keeps changing, keeps evolving. We now, today, as you're watching this, are not the person we were yesterday. And we will not be the same person tomorrow. Once we grasp that and we really take that on board, that's when we start to get some real traction, real movement. Spirituality is going to play a bigger role as we move forward in this new era of the Aquarian. We are bringing back ancient lost knowledge, but we're doing so knowing the science as we understand it. We are slowly proving the science. We are slowly proving about resonance, vibration, frequencies. The tests are being shown. Telekinesis, telepathic communication. All of this exists and has always existed. Much of it was stopped because humanity was not in a place and a space that had sufficient emotional intelligence and discernment to use it with skill. Let's just put it that way. And I'm not so sure those whose hands it was in, it was used with skill, but that's a whole another topic. But we are now in a place and a space and moving forward where we do and are starting to have that emotional intelligence, are starting to have that discernment. The work we do now is just a building block. And that was something else that came up in conversation last week, because I said how grateful I was for all those spiritualists of the 50s and 60s and 70s that cleared away so much of the ish that allowed me, when I came along and I started opening up, to just connect. I mean, it wasn't quite that easy, but it wasn't challenging. Like, I didn't have to do the work that they had to. I didn't have to take the same precautions that they had to, because they cleared away a lot of the darker, heavier energies that existed from humanity's creation. Let's not make this something supernatural. These are vibrations, these are energies. And they were vibrations and energies that were just because our minds created it. And so I thank those people that did all that work. And now I'm laying another layer, along with many, many other people that do the same as I do, a foundation, and then the next generation and the next generation, and we keep building on this, and we keep growing, and we keep ascending, we keep evolving. Be honest with yourself, have that discernment, and if you're not able to have discernment and set boundaries for yourself, do that first. Then do your meditation, find your anchor, find your peace. Then start exploring whatever it is that takes your fancy. And don't worry that even though you've gone, oh yeah, I fancy finding out a little bit about that. If you get there and it doesn't resonate with you, then it doesn't resonate with you. Come out. Don't just sit there. Don't do things that you're not comfortable with. But also don't give up on it either. Go try somebody else. Go to a different class with a different teacher or a different guide. Just give it a whiz. But be true to yourself. Trust yourself. If you've liked the video, hit that like button. If you have not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe and the notification bell to get informed every time there's a new video uploaded. Until the next time, you take care. Bye bye.